David speaking in Psalms 31, verse 5, it's the passage that I actually started our service off with. He's in a season where he is calling on the Lord for delivery. But then he makes this statement. He says, I trust my spirit into your hands. The reason this passage stood out to me this week is you need to trust in the hands that shape you. Again, it's the word of the Lord that sets direction. It's the pressure of prayer, me spending time listening to the word of the Lord in prayer that sets me to center. And what David says is, I don't fully understand what you're doing, but I trust that because I've spent my time in prayer, I'm hearing your voice. And because I'm spending my time in the word, I trust your direction. Now notice, I'm having a really tough time doing this with a mic in my hand, and already the clay is off center. It's not enough, for one, it only works when you trust both hands. When you trust what God is saying in your prayer life. When you trust what you read in Scripture. It's when those two things come together that we can find perfect center, and what starts off as a ball of clay finds itself shaped in an image that the potter had in mind from the beginning. You know, this clay didn't have a conversation with Suzanne before it sat here. But it had to trust that she had an intention. And it's funny because the ability of the potter is really kind of found fairly quickly on how well they can center clay. When I first started, of course, I was talking to Suzanne. We went back and forth. We talk every week now at one point or another for about 4 seconds sometimes, but just about the pots that we're throwing and what's happening. Matter of fact, I'm just looking at this tool thinking we need to talk about this because this looks cool as heck and I think I want one. I don't even know what it does. But she said for the first several months of pottery, the only thing she would do is try to learn how to center. And she would sit there at a wheel and just center and center and center. And I thought, that sounds boring. I don't want to do pottery if that's what it takes. Can I tell you, the first several weeks of me doing pottery was just learning how to center over and over and over. I got a bunch of wonky pots because I couldn't find center. And I just crush them and start all over again because finding center is absolutely critical. But now, can I just tell you, this clay can trust Suzanne to find center. Can I just tell you, I don't know what's thrown you off access, but you can trust the Spirit of God. David says, I trust your hands. I entrust my spirit to your hands. I had this picture all week that so many of us in the room, and I'll include myself, when I say that, this is me being vulnerable. There are so many things that at times I have to remind myself that doesn't go there. That shouldn't have that type of access to my life. Can I, if we're being honest, I know we're going over a little bit, but I just feel like somebody needs to hear this. You need to slap some people's hands away from the clay. They don't know what they're doing. Oh, I don't know, Pastor John, but he loves me so much. Oh, but they love me so much. They'd offered the world. Can I just tell you, some of you need to slap your own hands away. You don't know what you're doing. You imagine the clay saying, no, just set the wheel. I'm ready to go. I just need to do this. Ooh, that's not what I want to do. Just need to, she did so good setting this thing. Already you can see the chaos that starts to happen the moment something is off center. It's just chaotic. Now I'm trying my hardest to center it one hand, but it's tough. But the moment it's off center, the chaos of that moment, just the chaos of it all, begins to move the clay in ways that it wasn't intended to move. The shaping of it, the shifting of it. I can't do nothing with this thing. Eventually, it just comes to pieces. Someone needs to catch this in their spirit, because you've allowed so many other things to form and shape you, thinking somehow you're going to find center. You're not. Let me save you the heartache. There's not a guy good enough to put you to center. There's not a career choice good enough to put you to center. There's not an educational pursuit good enough to put you to center. It's only by his word and prayer. It's us listening and committed to his voice that puts us center.